let us just take Aisha in the class. I think she's joined. Yes, good evening, Aisha. Am I audible and visible to you?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. What happened? Why do you sound low?
Actually, I have kind of mild fever.
You have fever?
Yeah,
You are joining the class in fever?
it's alright to join this class in fever.
Okay. Do I teach so good? Okay. Okay, let's begin. So we started with sexual reproduction, right? Nora, Nida, and Aisha. Yes. And I think in the last class, the major thing that we did, apart from the introduction, was the morphology of a bisexual flower, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So who would like to give me a brief recap? So I'll go to Aisha the last because she is not well. So is it Nora? How about you? Would you like to give me a brief recap of the last class quickly? What we did, what are the different parts of a bisexual flower, and what parts do what? I think that was all that we finished in the last class. Structure, yes.
I wasn't there in the last class. I was told that a fresh batch will be starting from tomorrow, and I was given the link today.
Okay. You were there in one of the classes that I took, right?
Yeah, the first class, the orientation class.
Okay, I understand. And then you joined this batch. Okay, so Nora, we have just started with sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So let me ask, okay, so let me give you a brief recap so that you also get to know what we have started and we have not advanced much, okay? And please come up with your questions if you have any doubts. Okay, Nora?
Okay.
Okay, so in the last class that I had with you, and this is just for Nora, that we discussed the basic concepts of reproduction, right, in organisms. And I told you to go back and read the first chapter, which is the first basic chapter, right? Which is not a part of your
Yes.
boards, but it's very important for making the concepts. And this is from where the syllabus according to boards start, which is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So did you go back and read the basic fundamentals of reproduction in lower organisms from NCERT?
Yes,
You
I
did
did
the
some of the part.
you did chapter 1, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you already know that there are two type of reproductions processes. One is sexual reproduction and another is asexual, right? In today's class, we will be talking about the sexual part of reproduction, and that also in flowering plants. Okay, so flowering plants are known as angiosperms. I'll give you a quick recap and then we'll move forward. Okay, so flowering plants are known as angiosperms, as you know. And what is a flower is the question. So flower is a specialized structure which basically is a modified leaf. Okay, it has evolved from leaf. So, and it has evolved for a specific purpose of attracting the pollinators. You know what are pollinators, right, Nora?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And why they attract the pollinators? Because they have to transfer their male gametes successfully to another female structure of a flower. So they are evolved specifically for the purpose of attracting pollinators and also producing male and female reproductive structures. Okay, just 1 second. I think yes, male and female reproductive structures. Now these structures, which I will tell you about, produce gametes. Okay, male and female gametes. The male gametes in plants is known as pollen grains, and the female gamete is called the egg cell. Okay, then flowers, they are bright colored, and if they are not bright colored, then there are two so they depend on their bright coloration to attract the pollinators. If they are not brightly colored, for example, there are many plants which are dull in color or are just white in color. And most of these flowers which are not bright in color are either nocturnal, which means they bloom during the night, and they depend more than on color, they depend on their fragrance, the scent. Okay, so they attract the pollinators not by visual attraction, they attract by olfactory attraction. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So either a flower has bright colors, or it has very good fragrance, or it has both. And then we started with morphology of a flower. So here I have drawn the structure of a bisexual flower. And what is a bisexual? You know, where both male and female structures are present. I think this we did in the first introductory class, right? So in a bisexual
Yes, sir.
flower, yes, in a bisexual flower, these are the major structures. So the part from which it is attached to the branch or to the stem is called receptacle. And then above the receptacle, there's a tissue called thalamus, which surrounds the female part, ovary of the female part. So a flower has sepals. Sepals are also known as calyx, and sepals are the outermost layer, outermost wall that I have written here. And the sepals, the role of the function of sepal is to protect and support the other structures in a flower. So if you see flower as a bud, so when it is in the bud stage, all you can see is the sepals, right? They are closed like this. And then the sepals open, and from inside the sepals, the petals comes out, right? So this is the outermost part, and it protects the flower. After sepals comes the second layer, which is called the petals. Petals are also known as corolla in some books, and petals are the brightly colored parts, and they also contains fragrance. Okay, and their whole function, their whole point is to attract the pollinators. Okay, so and beneath the second part, which is petal and sepals are over, then the third layer is of the male reproductive structure, which is called either stamen or androecium. And in the last class, I just told that the word andro, remember terminology, Nora? I told that we will be talking about certain terms in biology. So one such term is andro. Wherever the word andro comes, androgens, androecium, it means it is related to male. Okay. And wherever the word gyne comes, it is related to females. Is it clear? Like
Yes.
gynecologist or gynoecium. Okay, so gynoecium is the term used for the female part. So the male part forms the third layer, okay, or the third wall, and the female part, which is in the very center, is the innermost layer. Okay, and male part, which is stamen and androecium, are divided into two further parts. On the top there is anther, so this is anther here, and the anther is supported by or is present on a stalk like structure called filament. So filament and anther are the two parts of stamen. And when we come to pistil or carpel, which is the female part, also known as gynoecium, it has three parts. The topmost part is stigma. The second, the cylindrical part. So the stigma is wide, and it's like a platform on which pollen grains can land. So it receives the pollen grain. Then there is this narrow tube called as style, and in the very end is the ovary. Okay, and all these three parts, stigma, style, and ovary, makes the pistil. Now this ovary is surrounded by, so outside the ovary is this tissue which I have marked green, which is called thalamus. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And also yesterday I was telling you that inside the ovary is your ovules are present, and ovules are the future seeds. So inside the ovary are the ovules, and ovules are the future seeds. So they will develop into seeds later on. And ovary is the future fruit. So when ovary will get ripened, it will become fruit. So is the overall structure of the flower clear to you, all of you?
Yes.
Yes. And then we discussed about Just 1 second. Yes, we discussed about this stamen, each part separately. So stamen has two parts, anther and filament. Anther is the topmost part, and anther produces and stores the pollen grains. Okay. Anther can be of two types. Either it is single lobed, which is called monolobed anther, or it has two lobes, which is called bilobed anther. But in both the cases, each lobe contains two structures known as theca. Is it clear? And theca is pollen sac, and it bursts when pollen grains have to be released after the pollen grains are mature. So each lobe of an anther is dithecous. Di means two and thecus means it contains two theca. Is it clear?
Yes.
And then there was one question that was asked in NEET about tapetum. So tapetum is a layer of the anther which provides nourishment to the developing pollen grains. Okay. And tapetum is a multinucleated layer. So tapetum is the tissue layer which provides nourishment. And most of the times in biology, the tissues that provide nourishment are either multinucleated, okay, or polyploid. Is it clear? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then the fourth part was this gynoecium or pistil or carpel that we discussed. And it has three parts, as I told you. Stigma. Stigma is the outermost part exposed to the environment, which receives the pollen grain and interacts with the pollen grain upon pollination. So we'll discuss about this interaction later on. Then the second part is style, which is a narrow, long tube-like structure which connects the stigma to the ovary. And it allows the growth of pollen tube. So this orange structure that you see is a growing pollen tube from the pollen grain, and it goes all the way down, moving through the style, going into the ovary, and it enters the egg, embryo sac from this region. And that's why this part of the ovary, this side of the ovary, is called micropylar end. What is it called? Say with me, it's called micropylar. Okay, will you remember this? Micropylar. Now the word micro is used for the male gamete. Okay, microspores, microsporogenesis, because they are smaller. But still this end is called micropylar end because the male gamete enters from this end. Is it clear to all of you? Just remember this name, micropylar end. We'll come to it again. Okay. Any doubts still here? Nida, Aisha?
No.
No doubt? Okay. Then we discuss pollen grain, and in pollen grain, there is a generative cell and a vegetative cell. The vegetative cell gives rise to pollen tube, and the generative cell gives rise to male gamete later on that we discussed. And at some places, the exine, the outer layer of the pollen grain, is missing, and it is called germ pore. I think all of this is clear to both of you, correct? Yes, Nida?
Yes.
No questions? Okay. Now in today's class, before we begin with the stages of sexual reproduction, I would discuss with you certain concepts about sexual reproduction, which is important. So this is important for both your concepts and from your exam point of view. Okay. So pay attention to this and discuss with me. Most of this you have already done in your lower junior classes. Okay. Now let's see what we have to discuss. So you know what is a haploid cell and what is a diploid cell already? Tell me quickly. What is a haploid cell? We write haploid cell as N, right? And we write diploid cell as 2N, correct? Diploid cell contains two sets of genome, and haploid cell contains one set of genome. Okay. Then in genome, by genome I mean number of chromosomes. Okay. So one set of chromosomes and two sets of chromosomes. Now this chromosome, you already know what is a chromosome, correct? Yes or no? Nida and Aisha?
Yes.
Yes. Now this chromosome can be of two types. It's either autosomes. So which is the, how many pairs of chromosome do humans have quickly? How many pair do human have? A human genome. Yes, Nida. Tell me. 23 pair. Okay. So human genome, one human diploid genome. By diploid, I mean 2 copies is equal to 23 pair of chromosome, which means 46 chromosome, out of which 22 pairs are called autosomes. Okay. 1 to 22, they are called autosomes. Is it clear? And one pair is called sex chromosome, or it is also known as allosome. Is it clear till here? Now the
Yeah.
allosome, it helps in sex determination in humans. Okay. Now how does it helps in sex determination? How does it decides the sex? If it is X and X, then it becomes a female.
Female.
Yes. And if it is X and Y, it becomes a male. Okay. Now both autosomes and allosomes, this is talked here about allosomes. These chromosomes contains genes, right? I already told you about genes. What are genes? Yes. Welcome back, Nora. Is your network stable now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So we are discussing some basics before going into the stages of sexual reproduction. Okay. So just look at this flow chart here and try to just understand what we are discussing. Okay. So we're discussing that haploid and diploid, there are two types of cells which contains either one set or two set of chromosomes. Chromosomes are of two types, autosomes or sex chromosomes. Autosomes are 22 pairs in human, and sex chromosome is one pair. It is either X or Y, and it helps in sex determination. If it is XX, it is a female, and if a embryo has XY, it is a male. Okay. And chromosomes contain genes. What are genes quickly? Who will tell? Aisha, what are genes? Any idea? What are genes? Genes.
Genetic material.
Yes, it is the DNA is the genetic material, and on the DNA there are certain regions present on the DNA. So if this pen is a DNA molecule, then there will be multiple regions on this DNA molecule which will be genes. So genes are basically part of DNA. They are DNA itself. Okay. And there is a gene for every character in our body. For example, eye color, hair texture, skin color. Okay. Growth of hair. All these things have genes which control it. So genes have alternate versions which are known as alleles. And the example of this, just one second. Yes. So genes have alleles, and you have studied about alleles in your Mendelian genetics chapter, remember? So let's say the gene for height. You remember that for height, the gene of height, there used to have two alleles. You studied that there is either a capital T or a small t, right? So capital T was your dominant allele, right? And small t was your recessive allele. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And whenever capital T is present with capital T, what will be the height of the plant?
Tall.
Tall. And if capital T is present with small t, what will be the height of the plant?
Tall.
Still
Tall.
tall. Yes, because whenever capital T is present with small t, only capital T is expressed because that is dominant. Okay. The recessive ones is only expressed if they are both present together. So if from both the parents they get small t and small t, then only it can show its characteristic and the plant now will be short one. Is it clear? Now, this type of tall is called a pure tall or pure line tall. Remember, this type of tall is called a hybrid tall. Yes or no? And recessive genes are always pure if they are expressing themselves. Okay. So that is what has been explained by this flowchart here. So alleles can be either dominant or recessive in case of the height allele, capital T and small t. So, but both of them are same genes. Okay. Capital T and small t are the same gene. The gene is for the height of the plant, but it has two versions. One gives tall character and other gives short character. But both characters are related to height. Do you understand? Everyone understands this? The characteristic that we are talking about is height. It have two versions. Height can either be tall or height can either be short. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So these are called alleles. Okay. The capital T and small t are called alleles. Now alleles, if both two identical alleles are present, it's called homozygous. Now, which of these three is homozygous? Which are
First and
homozygous?
last.
First and last. Capital T and small t. These are homozygous. And then capital T small t is heterozygous. So do you understand what is a heterozygous allele and what is a homozygous allele?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, both these heterozygous and homozygous alleles, when they are present, they form the genotype. So this is the genotype. Okay. This part is the genotype of the plant. But this part where the character is visible is the phenotype. So write down, genotype is the genetic makeup and phenotype is the appearance of that character. Write down, genotype is the genetic makeup, which means what kind of gene is present and what kinds of alleles are present together. And phenotype is the visible character. If I say what is phenology, the word pheno is associated with the visible characters. Phenology, logy means study. So phenology is the study of those characters. Okay. In plants and animals both. Do you understand, everyone, the term?
Yes.
Okay. Now this genotype alone is not enough to give rise to a phenotype or influence a phenotype. So genotype also acts with environmental factors. So environment and genotype together influence the phenotype. Is it clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. So this chart is clear to you? How is it connected?
Yes, sir.
Now, please make it. Please draw this chart and write everything down. And then we'll come to the stages of sexual reproduction in plant. Quickly, and let me know when you're done. Ask me any questions if you have. all three of you are crystal clear with this whole flowchart?
Yes.
Okay. Also, Aisha, Nida, and Nora, when do you have your examinations in your school, and what chapter is currently going on in your school?
Mine is gonna start from 22, and for me,
Yes.
for me, human reproduction is going on, and we are at Genesis.
Okay, so I know about Aisha's. So in your exam, this chapter that we are doing currently, along with human reproduction, only till the male part will come, right? Which
Yes,
we will.
the whole part is coming, I think so.
Okay, the whole part is coming. Don't worry, that also will be finished. Okay. And Nida and Nora, what's up with your syllabus in school? Yes, Nida. What?
We have two chapters and it's
Second
on
and
14th. Yes, second and third, and it's on 14th June.
14th June. Okay, very
Yes.
well. We will cover that before it. Okay, so don't worry. And Nora, what about you? Same thing? Second and third chapter or something different?
Yes, sir, the same.
And when is your exam? You don't know yet. So the date sheet is not out yet.
Last 2 weeks of June.
Last 2 weeks. So you are somewhere around Aisha, right? 22nd June. So we will cover it by like 10th June, both the chapters. That's not a problem at all. But for all three of you from this batch, because this is the batch that started the latest, so it's also lagging in terms of syllabus because we cannot jump. We need to study everything. But I have taught these topics in other batches as well, okay, where we have discussed some things which are different, some things which are related to your syllabus, both. So this is my number. You all can see. You all can ping me or text me, or if you use WhatsApp, that will be very good. You can send me a WhatsApp on this number telling your name and your batch, and I will give you the links for those classes. Okay. Just so that you can see in advance if you need to just see, and because in your school chapter 3rd is going on, but here we are on chapter 2nd, so you can in advance see the lectures for chapter 3 as well. Okay, all three of you. And if you have any doubts, you can bring up those doubts, even if we are on chapter 2. But if you have any doubt from chapter 3, you can bring it up. I'll note it down, and when we will reach that chapter, we will do it. Or if that doubt, I can resolve it in like just few minutes, I will take it there only. So don't worry about that. Okay, and don't worry about the
Sir,
syllabus as well. Yes, Nora.
can you please explain haploid, diploid, and triploid?
Yes, I think you just lost your signal when we started this, right? Okay. So the word haploid, it comes from the word ploidy, okay? Haploidy, diploidy, triploidy, tetraploidy, pentaploidy, hexaploidy, whatever is that number. Ploidy means, write down somewhere in, like, note this thing down. Copy number of genome. Okay, Nora? It is not the number of chromosomes, because number of chromosomes vary in every organism. Humans, if we talk about a single set of genome, so humans have 23 chromosomes in one single set and 23 pairs in a diploid set. Okay, is it clear to you, Nora? But if you talk about another organism, like let's say a small fruit fly, okay, it's a small fly which hovers around the fruit. It likes fruit. So that only has 4 chromosomes. So if I say, what is the N number? N means haploid. Haploid means one single copy number of the genome, one single set of the genome. Is it clear to you, Nora? So the N number for a human will be 23. Okay, but for a fruit fly, it will be 4.
So,
For a butterfly, it can be 100. So there are butterflies which has around 280 to 300 chromosomes. You know, butterflies, more number of chromosomes does not mean, or more number of genes does not mean that the organism is more complex or more evolved. Okay, what makes an organism more evolved and complex is the interaction between those genes. That is something that is higher, but you should know it from the beginning. So the n number for a human is different, and for a fruit fly is different. So that's why do not remember this as the number of chromosome or half number of chromosome. This is how most of the students remember it as. But remember it as copy number of the genome. If it is haploid, it is a single copy of the genome. And what is that single copy depends on what organism we are talking about. Is it clear, Nora?
Yes.
So all the gametes are haploid. Okay, so you can write down in haploid cells are the gametes are haploid. Sperms, ovum, pollen grains, egg cell, they are all gametes, and gametes are haploid cells. And then diploid cells are our body, all the normal cells of the body. Every cell apart from the gametes are your diploid cell, and diploid cells contains two copies of the genome. And where did these two copies came from? One came from the mother and one came from the father. So zygote or embryo. Okay, embryo and zygote both are diploid. Is it clear, Nora? Diploid is clear to you? If I say something is triploid, then it has 3 sets of the genome. Then the third copy came from somewhere else. And if something is tetraploid, it has 4 copies of the genome. Clear? Yes.
Yes.
Now the natural state of animals. So animals mostly are diploid. They do not tolerate polyploidy better. Like polyploidy in humans are all disorders. So you will read about a lot of chromosomal disorders which comes in exams. For example, have you read of or heard of syndromes like Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome in class 11th?
Yes.
Yes.
Down syndrome I have.
Down syndrome you heard. So what is Down syndrome? Can you tell me, Nora, what is a Down syndrome? What do you know about Down syndrome? Just tell me.
Extra copies of chromosomes.
Yes, which chromosome?
Genetic chromosome.
Chromosome number 21. Okay. So if you know about Down syndrome, let me take an example of Down syndrome only. So Down syndrome is also known as trisomy of chromosome 21, CH chromosome. Oh. This. Chromosome 21, which means the chromosome number 21 should have 2 copies, one from the mother, one from the father. So it should be in a pair, right? But in these people, there is a third copy which is generated. And this is a disorder. Humans do not tolerate the third copy well because we are animals. So this creates a syndrome, a disease, which is called Down syndrome, where the brain development and mental retardation takes place. So brain development hampers, and the kids have bigger heads, and they are mentally retarded. They are not good with learning capabilities. That's called Down syndrome. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. But plants, on the other hand, are very good with tolerating polyploidy. So plants can be tetraploid. Plants also have tissues which are triploid tissues. One example we will be studying later on when we will be studying formation of seed and embryo. Okay. So plants tolerate polyploidy very well. Okay. Both tetraploid and hexaploid. Sorry, tetraploid, or they can either be hexaploid. So most of our cereals, you know, rice, wheat, they are all polyploids. So they do not have a problem with 3 or 4 copies of the genome in their cell. But animals do not tolerate more than diploidy better. Okay, is it clear, Nora, Nida, and Aisha? Yes. So everyone has noted this down.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So now let us begin. I think, hello, Namira, am I audible to you? Namira, are you there? Your voice is lagging. I think you need to be on a good internet connection. Okay, I cannot hear you properly, but if you can hear me, just let me know. Okay, you can write in the chat box if you can hear me. I just wanted to know, is this the first class that you're joining of mine? You can just write down in chat if this is your first class with me. Okay, anyways, people, let's move forward and let's start the topic, stages of sexual reproduction in plants. Okay. Now there are 3 stages. When we talk about stages, it means the whole process, how many parts it is divided in. The first thing that happens if a plant has to do sexual reproduction is, of course, pollination, right? It first needs to transfer its male gametes to the female gamete, right? And that process is called pollination. Am I clear? Yes or no? People, Aisha, Nida, Nora, Namira, if you cannot speak, you can write in the chat, okay? Am I audible to you? Just confirm me that you are able to hear me. Then what happens after pollination? Once the transfer is done, then the plant have to do what? It has to do fertilization. So the second step is fertilization, or we call it formation of zygote. Is it clear? This is the second stage. And then finally, the third one is formation of seeds and fruits. Okay, everyone? So we will divide it into these 3 parts and we will study the whole process like this. Okay, shall we begin? So let's start with pollination. Now quickly define pollination for me, because this is very basic and you already know it. Who will define? You have studied this in the lower classes. What do we mean by pollination?
Transfer
Quickly.
of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma.
Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Who is it? Nora, right?
Yes.
Yes. So correct. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. But write down. Let's write it down. It is the process of transferring the male gamete, which is pollen grains. In the bracket, you can write down pollen grains. It is the process of transferring the male gamete, pollen grains, from the anther of a flower to the stigma, of the same or another flower, present on the same or a different plant. Present on the same or a different plant. Will someone please repeat it for me? What did you write, Nora? Quickly. What did you just write? Just repeat the dictation. Are you there, Nora? Aisha? Yes. Aisha, you're mute again. No one is speaking. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Nida. Would you like to tell me what did you just write?
It is the process of transfer of male gamete pollen grains from anther of flower to the stigma of the same or another flower present on the same or different plant.
Yes, perfect. So here we are talking about all the possibilities. Now pollination, which is transfer of pollen from anther to stigma, can be of different types depending on from which anther to which stigma it is going. Okay. Now, to do pollination, we need agents which are called pollinators, because plants cannot move, right? They cannot go from one place to another finding a female plant or female flower and transfer the gametes themselves like animals. So unlike animals, they depend on different factors. So what are pollinators? Let's also define pollinators. Write down. These are biotic or abiotic factors. These are biotic, and in bracket you can write down living. Biotic or abiotic, and abiotic are non-living. So these are biotic or abiotic factors that transfer the pollen grains from one place to another. Okay. Or from anther to stigma. So finally, ultimately, it has to reach stigma. But while these factors are doing this, they are not doing this deliberately. They do not know that, what we are carrying has to go to a stigma. They just do it because either there is if they are living, there is something involved in it for them, some benefit. For example, either nectar or attraction due to color or fragrance or something like that. Do you understand? Can you give me examples of biotic pollinators, living pollinators?
Insects.
Insects, right? Insects like honeybees, mosquito, other butterflies are pollinators. Apart from insects, birds are also pollinators, small birds especially, right? Hummingbirds, sunbirds. And big animals like snakes are also pollinators for big flowers. There are big flowers also present around.
Bats.
Bats, yes, perfect. And so bats are what? Bats are mammals, right? Snakes
Yes.
are reptiles, birds are birds, aves, and insects are arthropoda. So all these are biotic or living pollinators. Examples of abiotic?
Wind, water.
Yes, wind and water. Because these two things can flow from one place to another. So when they are flowing, they have a current, wind, air current and water current. So with the current, they can carry certain pollen grains. Now, there is also a question associated with this thing. Plants which rely only on abiotic factors. Write down this question. It is a board's question. Write down. Comment on the structure of pollen grains. Comment on the structure of pollen grains of the plant that rely on wind for its pollination, that rely on the abiotic factor wind for its pollination. Yes, tell me what answers comes to your mind. This is an actual
They are
question.
light for wind.
Yes, so first thing, so write down, let's keep writing it down. If write wind, and for whatever plants depend on wind, You're right, Nora, that if they are depending on wind, then their pollen grains have to be light. Now, what can you do to a pollen grain to make it light? Will you not put things in it?
Dry.
Dry. Yes, it has to be dry, right? Pollen grains are mostly dry. But what other things can make it lighter and help it to fly with the wind? So to get transferred through wind, you have to stay afloat in the wind, right? You have to be airborne. Let me give you an example. It's not an example for pollen grain, but it's an example for a seed. You remember dandelions? The dandelion thing? You blow on a dandelion and then small things just disperse. It's white in color. If anyone is understanding what I'm saying, it has a stem, and towards the center, it has structures like this, right? You understand? Whitish feathery structures, many of them. And then you blow on it and all the white feathery structures just disperse in the air. So that is a dispersal technique for the seed. Dandelion actually contains the seed at the bottom. All these whitish feathers that flow in the air contain seeds. So similar thing as of this can also be done to pollen. So pollens has to be very light and some feathery structures has to be present associated with it, which can keep it airborne. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Now tell me, if the same question comes for water, plants which rely on water, then what factor should be there? If something has to be carried out by water, it should not get drowned inside the water, right? So it should be waterproof. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it should have a hydrophobic coating. Write down hydrophobic coating on the pollens. So pollen should not get wet. It should be waterproof. It should have hydrophobic coating. The word hydro means, again, biology. Let's come to the terms. Hydro.
Water.
Yes. And phobic. Phobia.
Fear.
Yes. Phobic comes from phobia. So hydrophobic is water which is afraid of water or which repels water. So water repellent or water disliking or water fear. So if question comes, what is hydrophobia? Hydrophobia is a condition that develops in human or organisms when they are not well, especially in rabies. You know rabies? What is rabies? Everyone, rabies.
Yes.
What is rabies?
It's a disease.
Yes, which happens due to a virus, rabies virus. Okay. And rabies virus is transferred through either rodents or dogs or cats. Okay. And in that there is a symptom called hydrophobia, which means fear of water. And if I say hydrophilia, it's likeness for water. Okay. So write down these two terms. Phobia is for fear and philia. Philia and phobia. Philia is likeness and phobia is fear. Okay. Is it clear? So
Yes.
pollen grains that has to be carried away by water has to be hydrophobic coating on it, and they should not submerge in the water and do not get waste, or they should not just die. Same if question comes that the pollen grains that needs biotic factor like insects, birds, snakes or bats, they should be sticky, right? For any biotic component, they should be sticky so that they stick to their pollinator's body. Yes or no?
Yes.
Those which are being dispersed by wind should not be sticky. Otherwise they will stick somewhere and they will not fly with the wind, right? But those which are being transported by insects or birds or snakes or bats has to be sticky and light. So the insect or the bird or the whatever organism is carrying it should not get annoyed or should not just remove it from itself. It should be so light that the insect does not know, even does not feel. So when it goes and lands on another flower, it is without knowing, just delivering the parcel. Very good. So pollinators are clear. Pollination is clear. Yes. Shall I move forward? Write down types of pollination. Types of pollination. So first we will study type on the basis of the plant and the flower, what kind of plant and what kind of flower it is. In the last class, I told all of you about the concept of monooecious, dioecious, bisexual, and monosexual. Say yes or no, if you are clear with that. Are you clear with all these terms, people? I'm writing it here. Monosexual. See, if you are not clear with something and if I ask you, do not answer, I will not move forward, because my job is to make sure that you understand. So what is a monosexual, Aisha? So you need to keep brushing. And one more important thing. So this batch will start getting assignments. I think you have already got one assignment, if I'm not wrong. Aisha, Nida, Nora has just joined, so she might not have got any assignment, but you will get assignments from me. And ideally after every class or after 2 classes, you should get one assignment, which you have to solve. It will be small. It will not be a very big assignment to take your whole day. It will be just 15 marks, 5 questions or 6 questions subjective and 5 to 10 questions objective, multiple choice. So you have to finish it and you have to submit it within the first 3 days when you get the assignment. Ideally under 2 days, you should do that. Okay. Everyone is clear? Aisha, Nida, Nora, and Namira? Say yes or no if you're clear that you have to submit the assignments. I highly encourage you to submit every assignment that you get. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Now monosexual. Monosexual is the organism in which only, yes, monosexual is the organism in which only one sex is present. Okay. So one sex, monosexual. And these organisms are also called as dioecious. Dioecious, because the word di means two. So if it is a single sex, one sex present, then there are two sexes, right? Two different sexes in most of the organisms. Then it needs two bodies. Dioecious means two and the oecious means body. So a monosexual plant is also dioecious, because if it has only one sex present, one sexual structure, then it needs two different bodies, male and female bodies, to accommodate two different sexes in its species. Humans are dioecious. We have two different bodies to accommodate male and female sex. So there is a male body different and a female body different. Some organisms have just one single body in which both the sexes are present. They are called hermaphrodites. Remember? Or they are known as bisexual, about just like the flower that we discussed above. Remember? This is a bisexual flower. You see, it has the male structure, which is called the stamen, and also the female structure in the same flower, which means it is a bisexual flower. Is it clear?
Yes.
So if a flower is bisexual, then the organism will be monooecious. Then it does not need two different bodies anymore. In a single body, you will have both the sexes present. Is this concept clear to all of you? If you again forget it in the next class, I'll again repeat it. So you have to make sure that time does not go in repetitions, but you have to be answering in the class. Now, is this clear? Or shall I repeat again? Tell me the concept of monosexual and dioecious. bisexual and monoecious. So monosexuals are dioecious and bisexuals are monoecious. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is it clear how it's happening, Namira? Yes, clear. Perfect. So in types of pollination, we will use this concept, and the first type of pollination that we will be studying is, okay, before going to the types, let me explain you through a diagram. So let's assume that there is one plant. Okay, this is plant 1. Okay, everyone, and on this plant there is a flower. So this is a flower. So this is flower 1, F1, and this flower contains both male structure and it also contains the female structure. Is it clear? So it is a bisexual. Sorry, Nora, come again.
No, sir. Nothing.
Yes. So this flower 1 is a bisexual flower. Is it clear? Yes. Now the first scenario is that the anther of the same flower goes and pollinates the stigma of the same flower. Is it possible? Yes or no?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, it is possible. The anther of the same flower will produce pollen grains which can go and fertilize the stigma or the female part of the same flower. So it is this kind of pollination is happening within the flower. Okay, and this kind of pollination is called autogamy. The word auto means biology. Let's come to the terms now.
Sorry.
Auto means yes. Sorry, Nora, I could not hear you. Self, yes. And gamy means union. Okay, coming together. So it is self-pollination. Write down. It is self-pollination. And in this pollination, it happens, write down, the transfer of pollen grains, the transfer of pollen grains takes place from the anther to the stigma, from the anther to the stigma of the same flower, of the same flower. Okay. Is it clear? So this is case 1. Case 1 is within the same flower. Now, if it is within the same flower, we do not have to worry about the plant at all, right? Fertilization is happening within the same flower only. Now look at the another scenario. The second possible scenario is that on the same plant, plant 1, there are 2 flowers. Okay. And then the transfer is happening from, this is flower 2. Now the transfer is happening from flower 1. I will use another color here, to flower 2. Do you understand the second scenario? It is not happening within the flowers. It is happening between the flowers, but within the same plant. Is it clear?
Yes.
And also let me come to the third scenario before discussing it. There is another plant called plant 2. Okay. And the third scenario possible is that this plant has a flower known as flower 3, F3. And in this case, the transfer is happening from flower 3 to flower 2. Okay. So this is happening between different flowers and also between different plants. Is all the 3 scenarios clear to you? All of you? First is between within the same flower. Then second is between 2 flowers but within the same plant. Then third is between two flowers and also between two plants. Now tell me, first I already told it is autogamy, which then which is a clear cross pollination, which is a clear. The third one is clear cross pollination because there are different flowers and different plants. What will you call the second one, where the plant is same but the flower is different? Is it self pollination or cross pollination?
Not both.
Then what it is? This is a potential chance. It's a potential case. So what will you call it if not self? Because in lower classes you have only studied self pollination and cross pollination, right? Then what will you call the second thing? Yes, it is difficult to explain in terms of self or cross, because if you consider flowers, then it is cross, right? Because from one flower to another it is happening. Yes or no? Yes. But if you consider the plant, then it is self, because it is happening within the same plant with the same genome, right? Yes or no? Say yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So the second case is known as getonogamy. As Nora said, getonogamy. Write down. In getonogamy, the transfer of pollen grains takes place. The transfer of pollen grains takes place from the anther of one flower, to the filament, to the stigma of another flower, from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower present on the same plant, So this is known as the transfer between two flowers. So it is between two flowers, but it is within the same plant. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And the third case is a clear cut. Now I'm writing this for examples, and this is your homework for today. This I give in every batch. You have to, we will discuss some important thing based on this. So you have to go back to your NCERT or to any other sources where you can go back, and you have to find at least 4 examples of each plants which show autogamy. You have to find it. Okay, write down as your homework 4 examples of each, and you will see that some examples are common. They are showing one and they are also showing the other one. And that is where we will bring into discussion a very important NEET question. So NEET questions are always asked. So I will discuss with you some NEET questions that have been asked before. I will also give some of them as your assignment question. Okay, so these questions ask like,
Repeat the question.
yes,
Can you repeat the question?
I have not dictated the question yet. I'm just saying that when you will come after finding 4 examples of each, then we will discuss those questions. Okay, Aisha,
Okay, sir.
today we are completing this part first. Now the third part, which is a clear cut case of a cross pollination, is called xenogamy. And xenogamy is a clear cross pollination. And write down, in xenogamy, this third case, the transfer of pollen from the anther of a flower, of one flower, from the anther of one flower to the stigma, of another flower present on different plants, So this type is known as between different flowers and also between different plants. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And you will find examples, 4 examples again. So these things, I'm making a star here, are your homework question. Okay, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Now, there is another term which is in NCERT that I have to explain, and let's do that. There are 2 type of plants on the basis of, so this was on the basis of what type of flower or what type of plant it is. So now the question comes from this part. Okay, so let me ask you, so this question is for Nora. Okay, Nora, listen to this question carefully. If a plant is dioecious, okay, if a plant is dioecious, then which of the following it will not allow? Autogamy, geitonogamy, or xenogamy?
Self autogamy.
Only it will. So you mean it will allow geitonogamy and xenogamy?
Not even geitonogamy.
So what will it allow?
Xenogamy.
Only xenogamy. So you understood the question, right?
Yes.
Did you understand the question, Aisha? Why it will only allow xenogamy?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain the answer? This is a actual
I
neat
know
question.
the answer. I can only explain myself very well. I don't know how to explain it now.
You understand it, but you are not able to explain it. Is this what you are saying?
Yeah.
Okay, Nida, do you understand?
No.
No. Okay, Nora, then it's your turn. Please explain it to your batchmates. How did you understand the question? So the question was about dioecious. So if a plant is dioecious, it can only allow xenogamy to happen. Nora, can you please explain the answer? Why did you?
Since
Yes.
the plant has 2 bodies, then there is no possibility of autogamy.
If it has 2 bodies, you're right. So dioecious means it needs to have 2 different bodies, which means the plant will be a different male plant and a different female plant, right?
Yes.
Yes, and only the female plants will make fruits then. That is also right. Because only the female plants will have stigma, style, and ovary, which means the pistil. So flowers will be on both the plants, but one plant, which is the male plant, will only have stamen in that flower, and the other plant will only have pistil in that flower. Yes or no?
Yes.
And there will be 2 different bodies, which means one will be a male plant containing all the flowers with stamen, right? And the other
Yes.
plant will be a female plant containing all the flowers with pistil, right? So the only thing that can happen is cross pollination between one plant and the another, and also between one flower and the another. So between different flowers and between different plants is called xenogamy. That is only possible because both geitonogamy and autogamy happens within the same plant, and is only possible if on the same plant both the sexes are present. Okay.
Yes.
Now they can also ask you question like this. So let me ask this question to Nida. Nida, do you understand now the answer, the reason for the answer?
Yes.
Yes. Now, my question is for you. If there is a dioecious plant again, okay, but it contains both type of monosexual flowers on the same body, then what will it allow and what will it not allow? So the plant again is dioecious, but it contains both staminated flower, which is the male flower, and also the female flower, which is the pistillated flower. So if it contains pistillate flower and staminate flower both on the same body, then what it will allow and what it will not allow. Now, clearly that plant is not dioecious. They are making a hypothetical case here, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So what will it allow and what will it not allow? Nora, would you like to answer?
It will allow only xenogamy and geitonogamy, not
Yes.
autogamy.
Yes. So now it will allow two things. Earlier it was allowing only xenogamy when there was only one type of flower present on one plant. Now there are two types of flower, both male and female, separate flowers, but on the same body. So in this case, because geitonogamy can still happen on the same plant, and xenogamy of course can happen, but autogamy cannot happen. Okay. Only a bisexual flower can undergo autogamy. Is it clear, everyone? All three of you, four of you. Is it clear? Aisha, Neda, Nora, and Namira?
Yes.
I need to hear 4 yeses if it is clear to you. And these are the type of questions that will be asked. Namira, is it clear? Yes, it's clear to Namira. Neda and Aisha?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now there are two more types of flowers or plants. So type of plants, first is called chasmogamous. Chasmogamous plant, and second is called cleistogamous plant. Any idea what are these?
Cleistogamous are flowers which do not open at all, and chasmo open.
Yes, cleisto comes from the word fist, like a closed fist. So cleistogamous plants are those plants which produces flowers which actually do not open, like they do not bloom like this, so that everything is exposed to the environment. The petals are kind of closed always. So that flower has a space in between, but it's like an indoor stadium. Do you understand? It's like a closed room. Inside the room, whatever you're doing, factors from outside cannot come in. Do you understand, everyone? That is the meaning of a closed flower. So inside there is both male and female organs present, but it is closed like an indoor stadium. Make sense? So write down, cleistogamous plants produces closed flowers. So these flowers do not open. And then chasmogamous plants, write down, they produces open flowers. So most of the flowers that you see around yourself are open flowers: rose, marigold, sunflower, etc. Open, exposed to the environment. Now tell me one thing, if a flower is not opening, then a cleistogamous plant, can it allow xenogamy to happen?
No.
No. Now, Aisha, can it allow geitonogamy to happen? Aisha just unmuted and said nothing and then muted again, according to me. Aisha, I could not hear. your answer. If you spoke, please speak again. My question is, will a cleistogamous plant allow geitonogamy to happen? Nida, I think Aisha is having some issues with unmuting herself.
No.
No, why? Why, Nida? Why no?
Um,
Because it's not open, no? It cannot interact with whatever is outside. And for geitonogamy, it has to happen between two flowers. But one flower is a closed system, another flower is a closed system. Then how can they interact among them, right, Nora?
Yes.
Yes, do you understand? Now, what it can only allow, a cleistogamous plant, what it can only allow? Autogamy.
Autogamy.
So will a cleistogamous plant depend heavily on pollinators?
No.
Yes. No, right? Everyone understands this? Yes or no? Another question is, so all these are entrance questions that we are discussing right now. Another question is, a cleistogamous flower. Listen to the question carefully, and whoever would like to answer, please unmute yourself and answer. A cleistogamous flower can never be monosexual. True or false?
True.
True, right? Why, Nora?
Because if only one sex is present, then it cannot self-pollinate. Autogamy is not possible.
Yes, and Gitono and Xeno is also not possible because of the closed system. So it cannot be a monosexual. So all cleistogamous flowers are basically bisexual. Is it clear?
Yes.
The logic behind it is also clear. So they quiz you on these things, on these concepts only. It's not very difficult things, but if you understand the concept once, it becomes easier to crack these kind of questions. Okay, and these are the questions that has been asked, and you will be getting an assignment on which this kind of question will be there. So I will put these questions from the previous year's papers into your assignment. Solve it and give it to me within 2 days, like upload it on the Learnivio portal within 2 days. It will come to me to check. Okay. Now, when you will do this homework, when you will come with examples, there'll be few more things that I will discuss with you in the next class. So write down your homework and please do your homework. Okay. Anyone has any doubts regarding today's class? Anything you want to ask? Because we just have 2-3 minutes more. So I will not start a new topic because that we will not be able to finish, but I will tell you what we are going to start in the next class. So you have to come prepared. Okay. In the next class, I will be talking about the second stage, the second step, which is fertilization. And this is a very important topic in plants because we will be discussing about double fertilization. What is double fertilization? Why it is called double fertilization? And we will also be discussing about the embryo sac, the structure of embryo sac. A very important topic from both boards and entrance point of view. And third thing will be triple fusion. What is triple fusion? So your homework is that you have to read on these things. What are these three things? Double fertilization, an embryo sac in flowering plants, and triple fusion. Okay. And come up with the examples. Okay.
Okay. You will
Yes.
not teach pre-fertilization events like that.
I will. Yes, I will teach pre-fertilization. This is a part of pre-fertilization events. And what you are talking about is this, which I have discussed. Where is it? Where is it? Yes, this one. So this is a most important pre-fertilization event: interaction of the pollen with the stigma. So that's called pollen pistil interaction. That is one. So there are two important pre-fertilization events. One is pollination. Second is pollen pistil interaction. And third is a part of it, which is called pollen tube formation. Okay. These three things come and that we will take up in the next class. Then we will talk about fertilization, where I will be teaching you about embryo sac, how it developed, what are the cells, what is double fertilization, what is triple fusion. So this is just to yes, Nora.
Microsporangium and megasporangium, the structures and all.
That we will do after that, because I teach it in a more elaborate manner than NCERT. So microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis, formation of pollen grains and formation of egg cells, will be the class after the next. Okay.
Okay.
Because that will include meiosis. So I will give you a homework in next class to study meiosis first. Then you will come back with meiosis, and we will in detail discuss microsporogenesis, which is pollen grain formation, and megasporogenesis, which is egg cell formation. Okay, Nora, everything will be covered. Don't worry. Okay. So this, I find this way easier, because first we go through stages, we understand what is happening, then we start going into the details of each stage. That way you can make a mind map or a story in your head. Okay. And probably from the next week, your classes will be extended. It will be 2-hour long classes. We are talking about this because I have to include a mandatory practice session in the class, where I will be discussing like just I did today. I will be discussing questions with you, the previous year questions, both from boards and from entrances. So that we will include in the class, in the live sessions, along with teaching. Okay. And that will also give us some more time to discuss more concepts in one class. Any doubts? Anyone?
No.
Okay, Namira, can you speak with me for some time? Can you unmute yourself and speak? Others, if you have no doubt, can go, can leave the class. I declare the class. Okay, bye-bye. Take care, everyone. See you.
Thank you.
Yes, Namira, are you there? Would you like to, can you speak up? If you cannot speak with the mic, you can just write down in the chat that you are having some issues with the mic. You can write. Amira, am I audible to you? Okay, I think you are having some issues. So what I need you to do is you need to just contact back with the team, because this was your first class. I hope you understood certain things. Yes, I got your message now. Yes, you have a network connection issue, I think, right? This is what you're trying to say. Okay, so yes, okay, you have a problem. I understand. So you contact back the team, because this was your first class and you joined in the middle of this topic. So even if you're finding yourself a little derailed and not connecting to the topic well, do not worry about it. Okay, we will take care of it, and we will handle whatever topics are left. And the way we will handle will be you can discuss with the team. Okay, I hope you understood the things that we discussed after you joined in today's class. Was that clear to you? You can tell me yes or no. And if you have any doubts regarding those topics. Okay, you understood. Okay, then see you in the next class. And before the next class,